Hi, I'm Jackie Rabbit. Today I want to talk to you about something we all need to do when we start transition. No, not hormones. No, not buy a bunch of clothes. That's it. Hair removal. Facial hair removal is the bane of the trans woman's existence. And I want to talk to you about this. I'm still doing it, but I'm almost done. And I want to tell you what that experience is like. So let's go talk about hair removal, why it's important in the very beginning, and what the differences are. Go give me a thumbs up, then subscribe, click the bell so you see the next video that I post, and we can share information together so you can get through this process just like I've been doing for the last 3 years. Come on, let's go talk about permanent hair removal. Permanent hair removal is a lot of things and a lot of words and a lot of concepts, but really it's only one thing. So some of you know me a little better because you've been down there in the comments talking to me a lot. So you know that I've been going to school for a medical certification. My medical certification is in permanent hair removal, and I have learned a lot over this last year. I'm hoping to very soon have my certificate start externing in a place that is going to teach me a very specific type of permanent hair removal, as it does actually take years to develop the skill to do it correctly. You don't just go to school, learn it, and whammo, you can do it. No, actually, you take years of actually working on developing the skin X-ray vision, because you're really kind of working in the blind. You're actually not able to see the follicles that you're trying to kill. So you have to develop a feel and a skill for it. And you need to be a little ADHD, like myself, because it will require some tedious monotony, sitting there for several hours at a shot, doing nothing but treating and killing follicles. Luckily for myself, that's actually something I excel at, and my ADHD helps me a little in that because I'll get a little obsessive about it, and 12 hours will fly by and I won't notice that I've had several clients throughout the day, and it actually works very well for me. I do very well when given a task that I can just very effectively roll through. But let's talk about the hair removal itself. So now that I've told you, I do know quite a bit about this now. I've been studying for over a year. I've really dug in, not just because I want to do this for my job or to help other people, which it will. I'll be working with a lot of trans women, obviously, and getting them through the process as well. But I want to do this because it really fits me, It really does. It's something that I really enjoy doing. And getting to know my electrologist, I've realized she and I are very similar, and we share a lot of the same traits. But one of the things as trans women that we need to start right from the very beginning isn't hormones, isn't a bunch of new clothes or shoes. It's hair removal, and I mean permanent hair removal. So I'll share with you what I've learned. I know immediately many of you are going to say, oh, but I had laser. I have got bad news for you. I am so sorry. Laser is a temporary hair removal process that only works in certain cases. And much of you girls follow me because we're the same age or in a similar age group from 40 to 60. I myself just turned 50. And I've been doing permanent hair removal for nearly 3 years. Actually, at this point, I think it is 3 years. But I am almost done. I just go for cleanups now. And I will tell you, the faster you start this process, the sooner you accept the fact that it is a long-haul process and there are no short cuts to permanent hair removal, the better. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It takes time. It is uncomfortable and it costs money. But if you don't do it, it will be very difficult for you to blend into the world and be invisible. And I'll tell you, blending into the world and being invisible is fantastic. Just getting to be yourself is the best possible thing you can do. And you're worth it. So are you worried about the money? You're worth it. Are you worried about the pain? You're worth it. Are you worried about how long it takes? You are worth it. Trust me. Now tell yourself you're worth it and get this process underway. So those of you who have said laser, let's talk a little bit about why I'm absolutely unconvinced about laser. And I do know what I'm talking about because I've done so much study, and I've actually talked and seen girls who've had laser who then have to go back and do electrolysis, actual electrolysis, because the laser didn't finish the job. There are some other risks with laser as well. So we'll talk about risks about the different types of the hair removal involved, and I'll give you my best advice on that as well. So with laser, if the hair is shallow, if the follicles are very shallow in the skin, and the hair is pitch black dark, and no, there's no pigmentation you can add to it to make that happen. It has to be in the corium. The corium, the center of the hair, absolutely needs to be black to transmit the heat. You know, dark objects in the sun get hot, right? Same with your hair. We're using photons, we're using light in order to basically cook that hair down to the follicle. The heat destroys the follicle, hopefully, so that it doesn't have the hair germ cells still left in there to grow a new hair. It also isn't a one-shot deal, no matter what you do, because you have many growth cycles for your hair. And there's a lot more follicular material that isn't growing on your face than you have any idea. So one shot's never going to work. Even if you had multiple lasers over the course of a year, you're still going to have to go see an electrologist. And some of the risks involved can be that the hair could be killed and you have a tiny little nub of black hair down at the papilla inside the follicle that is dead but stuck. And the pore seals over and it's in there. And you're thinking to yourself, well, it's not going to grow. What's the problem? Well, you've shaved before, right? What happens? You still see the gray hair matter under the surface of your translucent skin. Your skin, your epidermis, is translucent. So whatever's in there, you can see. And unfortunately, a dark little ball of dead follicular matter under the skin will be visible if there's many of them. You'll have a 5 o'clock shadow even after the laser's done. In some cases. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. The good news is it can actually be fixed. The bad news is it's exactly the same thing you should have done in the first place, electrolysis. So there's a couple kinds of electrolysis here. And the one that can actually fix those little leftover hairs in your face if you accidentally get a treatment of laser that leaves dead matter in your skin that you can see like a 5 o'clock shadow, galvanic electrolysis can actually fix that. It's just a tiny little probe, little wire that goes into the pore, and they can open the pore with that. They add a tiny amount of current, and it converts the moisture and salt in your pore into lye, sodium hydroxide. And it actually will bubble and melt that material, and your body will eventually eject that. Or sometimes the gases during the electrolysis sometimes we'll actually kind of bubble it up a little bit so that the electrologist can grab it with tweezers and get it out of there. They call those tombstones, and sometimes you have them naturally, like if something grows and just kind of dies, or they tried to epilate the hair and it didn't come out all the way and there's something left, your body usually ejects it. But with laser, the heat usually has your face make a scar, and unfortunately it'll seal them up, and so they have to be opened up with the electrologist's probe. A little bit of current needs to be added, and the galvanic process needs to actually melt that out of there with a little bit of lye. And that's really the best way to go. The problem is, if you'd started with electrolysis instead of the laser and then the problem and the fix to the problem, you'd be done by now. But instead, you're starting over. Might as well just do this the right way the first time. There are no shortcuts. I am so sorry. I know you want one. I did too. Everybody I know wants the shortcut. There isn't one. There's no cream, there's no lotion. Oh, and by the way, starting hormones does 0 to your facial hair. I know everyone talks about, oh, well, it's softer, or it's lighter, or it's, I don't believe any of it. I don't believe any of that stuff. It didn't happen for me. It hasn't seen any evidence on all the women that I've looked at, and I've talked with my electrologist about this ad infinitum. Maybe a slight amount of softening, but nothing that does anything to make a difference, and you still need good electrolysis to get it done. It can take 2 to 3 years. So the sooner you start this process, the better. You know, I've had to live very inexpensively. I just don't have a choice. It costs money to transition. Now, I'm lucky I have insurance, and it covers great many things of the things that I need. But I still have co-pays. I still have my portion of payments for surgeries. There's still a lot that has to be done. And I have to pay my medical premiums every single month, and they are expensive. It's what needs to be done. This portion of your life isn't forever, so just do what you have to do. I have a great big flat of top ramen over there and a fridge full of salad and virtually nothing else. I have some tortillas, I have some apples, I have some frozen vegetables, but I kid you not, beyond the coffee, that's all I've got. That's it. I'm in the least expensive place that I can possibly live. And this little loft, while it serves me well, costs me very little. And it comes with a lot of sacrifices. But that's okay. My transition and my mental health were well worth it. I know that I had to do what needed to be done, and you may have to as well. So if your money is tight, do whatever you have to do, but just get it over with. Just do what you need to do. It's a couple of years, 2, 3 years. I'm about 3 years at this point, and I'm 2 years of solid effort to get where I am now, and I'm living my best life. I've started living my best life, and I want you to be able to live your best life as well. So I'm giving you the message. Go see an electrologist now, immediately. Check with your medical professionals when you do go get your therapist through your medical insurance, and then you go see your doctor and come out to your doctors about being trans, and they start giving you referrals to what you need to get done. The very first one you want to get is that hair removal, and don't let them send you to laser. Now, especially when you go to surgery, the downstairs area, just tough it out, go with electrolysis. It is more permanent, and this is where I'm going to tell you why. The different kinds of electrolysis are thermolysis, which uses heat, and well, I'll just call it electrolysis because it truly is. Thermolysis isn't, because it's using heat and radio frequency energy to cook the follicle, but they just call it electrolysis anyway. They group it all together. Galvanic electrolysis uses a little bit of DC current, direct current, little tiny bit, like milliamperes, itty bitty, like 1-2 milliamperes of very small amount of electrical potential, and it creates lye inside the pore. So they put the wire probe, which is tiny. It's this itty bitty, like 3/1000 diameter, 2 to 5 thousandths, depending on the size of the hair. Usually they match the size of the hair to the probe size. They put it into the follicle. Now they're not poking a hole in you. They are just sliding the probe underside the hair along into the pore that your follicle rests in to begin with, the follicular pore. You actually don't feel that. If the electrologist is good and they slide the probe in, you actually don't feel the probe sliding in to the follicular pore. It's the current that they apply. And it's a tiny amount of current. You've stuck your tongue on a 9-volt, right? It's a tiny infinitesimal fraction of that inside a pore. And there are some nerves scattered around the pore, so you're going to feel it, but they're mostly at the surface of the skin. It's not horrible, and you do get used to it with time. It's best if you don't use a bunch of numbing cream, but if you're so sensitive you can't handle it, you can apply some lidocaine, prilocaine numbing cream and put some saran wrap over it to keep your freshness in, and your electrologist will remove what they need, wipe it away, and work on an area. And it's best that they actually work on an area and stay in an area instead of shotgunning your face. Now, I know sometimes they'll tell you, well, I'm going to shotgun you all over the place, so it's a gradual thing. The reason they do that is when they're using thermolysis, and it spreads out the heat. And I'm going to tell you why I'm not so excited about thermolysis, especially on your face. So the best and The way I've done it was straight galvanic, current only, and it's very effective. It converts that moisture and salt inside the pore into lye. The lye destroys the cells of the follicle and its ability to reproduce. And of course, you have dormant hair everywhere, so you're going to have to go through many cycles of hair growth in order to get rid of a full face of hair. Just the way that it goes. Sorry, girls, but look at me. This is what it looks like. It is really very nice. In fact, there is so much follicular material in your upper lip. It's crazy how much is in there, that if you examine your upper lip after shaving, you'll notice that it has a convex curve to it. It curves out for most of us, right? When you're done with electrolysis, since the follicular material has been removed, there's so much material that's physically been removed from the surface skin and the skin in your upper lip, it'll actually go concave. It'll go this way. It'll actually curve, your lip will curve out, just like a girl's, just like the regular everyday women you see. There's a big difference there. You go from kind of that monkey lip to the nice curved girl lip. It's actually kind of interesting how that works out. So the other one they use that they call electrolysis is thermolysis. It's the same probe. It's the same little wire. They put the little probe into the follicle the same way, but they use radio frequency energy to generate heat. So it's an oscillating current. It is still a current, but it's an oscillating current that, just like in your microwave using radio frequency energy to cook or heat water, the same thing's happening in that probe. It is heating the area right next to the follicle and cooking it. And it kind of turns it into a little bit of a gelatinous goo. And as long as the power and the depth and everything is just right, it will kill that follicle. The problem here is it's creating heat, and your face is full of collagen. Do you really want to cook the collagen in your face? I've seen a lot of girls who have had straight thermolysis, and they love how fast it was. The thing is, the treatments are fast, and many hairs are treated, but they're not necessarily 100% killed. The effective kill rate is lower than that of galvanic. So galvanic, while you can only treat so many per visit, kills them more effectively, and you get done at the same time or sooner than you would with thermolysis. And there's no heat involved in galvanic, but with thermolysis, you are using heat. And around your mouth, I really would not recommend this one little bit. Some operators, if they can't get the hair out, will hit the pedal again, and the cycle starts over, more heat. If they can't get the hair out, they hit it again, more heat. Well, that can actually hurt you. That much heat in one little spot can damage you. And unfortunately, you'll develop a scar if your operator is just mashing that pedal multiple times because you're tough to work on. It happens. It's not super common. Just like with the laser, having a problem with tombstones in the skin, there are operators out there who just keep mashing the pedal. Unfortunately, with thermolysis, that's a bad thing. Now, with galvanic, another hit, well, just going to produce more lye. And once the moisture is gone in that pore, it's not really going to do much. So much less risk of any real damage with the galvanic, even if you're overtreated. Tends to be just fine. I've had some real resistant ones where I've just told the operator, hit it again, I'll deal with a little red spot for the next week or so. And you know what? My face looks great. She's done such a beautiful job. And I have to tell you, go with the galvanic. Might be hard for you to find that galvanic operator, but go hunt one down. They're becoming more popular again because they know it works. So with thermolysis, I've seen some of these girls, and they have a lot of fine lines around their mouth. They just look like they've aged a bit prematurely, and unfortunately, none of us want that at this age, right? I'm 50. I don't want it. I don't think you want it. So avoid thermolysis on your face. Now, there's one more kind of electrolysis. They call it the blend. They actually take both kinds, galvanic and thermolysis, and put them together. Sometimes the galvanic is first and then the thermolysis, and sometimes the thermolysis first, then the galvanic, and they mix them, and they're on a timer. So one will happen, then the other will happen. Traditionally, it's a little bit of thermolysis followed with galvanic. And sometimes it's the other. It really depends on where you are. Sometimes it's galvanic first and then thermolysis. And that is one that I've seen more recently In the last 10 or so years, that's become the common one. And the idea behind it is that you can use a little less of the galvanic, which doesn't cause as much discomfort for the patron because it's a lighter charge, right? So there's a smaller amount of lye in the pore. But then the added heat, which isn't as much as you'd use for thermolysis, it's just a little more heat, actually heats up the chemical reaction of producing the lye. Well, that's a sound way to go. So if you've got an operator who's doing galvanic at the front end and then a little bit of thermolysis to heat up the chemical reaction, that style of blend might be just fine for you. And if you find a good operator who's doing that style of blend, I think that would be great. Just remember, laser's a lie. I don't care what anyone tells you. They're promising you the world and they can't deliver. Certainly don't do it downstairs before surgery. You don't want that unaffected hair growing back after surgery. And it does rather cook your skin. They're using a heat. If you don't have blazing white skin, you've got some pigment. I've got a little pigment from, some of the Italian side of my family. So my skin would be very heavily affected. If you have any darkness to your skin whatsoever, laser's gonna really cook your skin. So I don't know what to tell you. Most of us who are older also have grayness in their beard. Well, those gray hairs will never be affected by laser. They just reflect the light. Same goes for colored, whether it's even brown. It could just be brown or red. That laser is not going to do anything but melt it off the surface. You'll feel great going home, but it's going to grow back. So again, my best advice, start immediately. Immediately. If you're looking for some resources because you don't know where to look and you're just calling all the salons, but you need to find out where do I go, where do all the trans women go in my area that have that great operator? Well, go over to transgenderpulse.com. There's tons of members there, great moderators. They've been through this process. They know who is where, and they can help you find someone in your area who has a good rapport with the local trans community that you could go see. Trust me, that's a great resource. Just knowing that you can go talk to some people who've been through this or are going through it and have experienced some of these good things that they can help you with, that's why you go there. So go sign up over at transgenderpulse.com and you tell them that Jackie sent you. Anyway, that's what I was going to tell you for today. Thermolysis is not a great idea on your face. Laser, just forget about it. Your arms and your legs, you want to feel smooth and stay smooth for a while? Laser's great. Go nuts. Don't do it on your face. Don't do it downstairs before surgery. Galvanic electrolysis, if you can find a good galvanic operator, that is the way to go. If you can find one that does the blend the way I described, that's an okay way to go too. But just be careful and make sure you get good referrals from others in your area so you know you're going to the right operator. Take care of yourself and remember, I care how this works for you. That's why I'm telling you all of these things. I want you to know. You can get through this, but start immediately. Get rid of that beard. I'll see you next time. Bye. What do you get when you cross a rabbit with an electrologist? A hair remover.